Is there a Myles Turner trade coming? Let's get into this. At this point, I think a lot of NBA fans know that Myles Turner is a very good NBA player, and he's definitely a very good NBA starter at this point in his career. At 25 years old, Myles Turner is still a young and ascending player in this league, and Myles provides on both ends of the court. He has a pretty extensive offensive game, as well as his bread and butter is definitely on the defensive end. Myles is a great two-way player in this league, and at this point in the new NBA, basically every single team in the NBA would always need a guy like Myles Turner on their team. I think a lot of NBA fans know who Myles Turner is, but don't necessarily realize how good this guy is. I think Myles is one of the young players in this league that are very underrated. So let's quickly take apart his game and see what he does do well and doesn't do well, and really explain why I personally think that Myles Turner is so good in this league and so underrated. So first, let's start on the offensive side of the ball. So Myles Turner has definitely extended his range, because when he first came into the NBA, he was a pretty good shooter, but he was only a shooter from that mid-range area. But he's been in the league a few years now, and he's really worked on his outside shot, and now he's definitely able to run the pick and pop with whoever point guard's running it, and he's able to hit that three-point shot at a decent clip. I wouldn't necessarily say he's a good three-point shooter at this point, and I think he's still working on it, but he definitely has the confidence to put up those three-point shots, because even if he's missing a ton, I've seen a few games of his where even if he's missing shots, he still has no hesitation and he just throws up those three-point shots. So at the very least, that's good to see from him, that he doesn't lose confidence in his jump shot. But in terms of his three-point shot, Myles Turner is a guy who can hit corner threes decently effectively, as well as those pick and pop threes, but he's not a guy who's really going to create his own three, of course. This previous season, Myles Turner was shooting 34% from deep, which definitely is okay at the very least, but obviously you would like to see him get that percentage up. But to be fair to him, he was shooting over 4 threes per game, so based on that, and also the fact that that's not his main bread and butter, his three-point shooting, I think it's definitely serviceable and pretty decent. And it's nice at the very least that your center could go out there and hit corner threes and pick and pop threes. I think it just opens up your offense so significantly. So in that sense, I think Myles Turner definitely would help your offense. But now moving on to another part of Myles Turner's game, let's talk about his mid-range shooting ability. So I mentioned before in the video that coming into the NBA, this was one of the things that Myles had down very well and was one of his main strengths coming into the NBA. And ever since coming into the NBA, you could really tell that Myles is really working on his jump shot in general, which would obviously lead to improvements in his mid-range shot, and we've definitely seen that as well. One thing he definitely worked on, as I mentioned before, he was very good at catch and shoot three-pointers, so as defenders were starting to respect that three-point shot, one thing he added to the game is he would do a little bit of a pump fake and then dribble pull up into that mid-range shot, where he was definitely more comfortable than that three-point shot. So now it's a more effective shot, and he was also getting pretty open looks on it. So that's something he did very well to add to his game, because also Myles Turner is very mobile for that center position, and he's very tall as well and long. So the fact that he's that mobile helps him out so significantly and can get by around other centers who are definitely slower than him. But also in his mid-range game, of course, you got the pick and pop with that mid-range shot that he's very effective at. And just in general, if he's going to catch and shoot from that mid-range spot, 9 times out of 10 he's going to hit that. It's definitely his biggest strength in his offensive game, which is his mid-range jump shot, and he's absolute money from that spot. But now let's talk about his post game and how he does there. I think that's also another one of his strengths. He has great footwork, which not a lot of people know about Myles, and he also has an amazing touch around the rim. He has very long arms, of course, and he's also extremely tall, obviously, so he can get that hook shot over a lot of people, but he also uses his footwork to his advantage in order to get a pretty open look at that hook shot range in the post, and basically 9 times out of 10, once again, he's going to make that hook shot. He has a very great touch around the rim. As well, he can also put up floaters around the rim, which is not necessarily that common for a center, but he just has such great touch around the rim that he definitely has the capability of doing that. But the great thing about Myles Turner is obviously he can do a lot of things on the offensive end, and he's basically a 3-level scorer, being able to hit that three-point shot, that mid-range shot, and also going all the way to the post with that hook shot. But also as well, he can obviously has the athleticism and the mobility to drive all the way to the basket and finish over you with a dunk or a layup. That's something that he could definitely do as well. But besides his offensive abilities, one thing that he does well is he's a great defender in this league, and that's maybe his best talent. Over the past few seasons, Myles Turner has always been in the top of the list in terms of block shots in the NBA, and he might honestly be one of, if not the best shot blockers we have in the NBA. I know a guy like Rudy Gobert comes to mind when you say this, but you have to look at what Myles Turner has been able to do. Over the the past few seasons, he's always at the top of the list in terms of block shots, and he definitely deserves a lot more respect in terms of his ability on the defensive end. This previous season, Myles Turner averaged 3.4 blocks per game, which is absolutely incredible and actually led the league this previous season. But of course, defense is not only about block shots, so let's talk about other things that he does in the defensive end. So before in the video, I mentioned how great of an athlete this guy is and how mobile he is for his size. So due to that, it helps him out a tremendous amount, being able to defend not only in the paint and getting those weak side blocks, but also he's able to guard in the perimeter at least a little bit, and he's able to slow down the defender at the very least until that help defender comes in and really helps him out with that guy. Myles Turner is not necessarily a guy who can guard 1 through 5, but he's mobile enough to at least slow down the point guard that he's guarding if you switch on to him, or a shooting guard or whoever it is, until another point guard defender could really help him out and just send help over. But what Myles Turner does well in the defensive end is just being that defensive anchor and blocking basically every single shot coming into the paint, and that's very valuable in the NBA. But now that we went over what Myles Turner does in the NBA and why I personally think he's a very valuable player in the NBA, let's take a look at these trade rumors and see if I potentially think that there's some legitimacy to it, and if Myles Turner could actually get traded. So these aren't the first trade rumors that have been coming out about Myles Turner. In the past few seasons, there's been multiple reports multiple times that Myles Turner could potentially be on the move, so I think this is definitely something that has some legitimacy to it. And obviously, for whatever reason, the Indiana Pacers are definitely open to trading Myles Turner. I think it's more of the Pacers just wanting to give more space and really just build around Sabonis rather than actually disliking Myles Turner. I think that's more of the thinking that goes into it. And as I mentioned before, Myles Turner can do so many things on both the offensive and defensive end, but I wouldn't necessarily say, at least on the offensive end, that he's elite in any category that he's in. I think he's just a guy who does everything pretty well. On the defensive end, he's definitely an elite shot blocker and a really good defender. I can't call him an elite defender, but a really good defender. But on the offensive end, he definitely doesn't do anything very elite. He's just good at every aspect. So I think that's another reason why the Pacers see this guy as someone who's definitely movable. And also, when you talk about this current NBA draft being so deep, I think that also gives a lot more legitimacy to these trade rumors this time around. And maybe the Pacers want to trade him for a draft pick and maybe draft a wing or somebody else that would really help Sabonis out. But what teams around the NBA would actually be interested in him, and who do I think would be a really good fit for him? Now, the first team that comes to my mind whenever there's a center going around the NBA and what team that really needs a center would definitely be the Boston Celtics. The Celtics definitely have really good wings. Jason Tatum is a generational talent in this league, and in the future I think he will be probably one of, if not the best NBA player we have in the league. Also, Jaylen Brown is also a young up-and-coming player, and I think he's also very good in this league. They obviously have great wings, but one thing that they always struggled with over the past few seasons was just not having a center. They had guys in the past like Enes Kanter who can get rebounds, which is great, but they never really had that guy in the defensive end that was a true defensive anchor and could really hold them over, and whenever someone gets by their initial defender, they don't have to worry as much because they have that guy in the paint that could really get block shots. They also had Tice in the past. He was definitely a pretty decent center in the NBA, but I see him more of a guy who can come off the bench and be an okay center. He's definitely not a starter in this league in my opinion, and he's not a true NBA anchor like Myles Turner is, and I think adding Myles Turner to the Celtics roster would really take them over the top. And if they do have the chance to win an NBA championship within the near future, I think it would be unlocked with Myles Turner. And the only reason I say that is because the Celtics' biggest weakness over the past few seasons, it was just not having that true NBA center that can lock down the paint. And with Myles Turner, that biggest problem they have would be solved. But with that being said, I wouldn't necessarily pick the Celtics to win a championship, even if they did get Myles Turner. I'm just simply saying that Myles Turner would fix a big need for them. And if the Celtics did believe this roster could win an NBA championship, that would definitely be the best chance they would have. I think other teams that would be interested in Myles Turner would be teams like the Los Angeles Lakers, maybe the Los Angeles Clippers as well, maybe the Golden State Warriors would be interested, another team like the Charlotte Hornets. I think there would definitely be a ton of teams that would be interested if he was officially made available, but I personally think the Boston Celtics would be a perfect fit and the ideal fit for Myles Turner. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Myles Turner has the potential to get traded pretty soon, maybe later today at the NBA draft, or do you think Myles Turner is going to stay with the Pacers? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out, guys.